I'm John Cole. The Good Morning News Show.
And I'm Tim Bryden. Giancarlo, what do we have for announcements today?
It might snow today, but we don't know. So please do your ice dance. The schools have been telling you about it. Anyways, give it on to him.
All right. In sports, the Boston Celtics just defeated the New England Patriots in a game of rugby, 3-2. That's totally different sports. But no, don't stop. And yeah, Clay Aiken just won American Idol. Giancarlo, what else do we have for news today?
So somebody robbed the bank of
Gotham City.
City.
Batman, where you at? In a developing story, three students in a small Iowa school have been suspended for wearing black armbands in protests against the Vietnam War. Now we have on scene reporter Chris Varden with more information. Chris, over to you. Thanks, Tim. Now I'm here with Mary Beth Tinker and Chris Eckhart. So, yeah. What you got a black armband on for?
In protest of the Christmas truce in the Vietnam War.
Dude, what's up? Is that against your school policy?
Yeah, because it gives our, like, freedom of, like, free speech, you know?
Right on, dude.
I'm not a radical!
Yeah! So, brethren, what is the school's policy on wearing the black armbands?
Well, we have decided to suspend the children for disorderly conduct, and we've also decided that it could have been a distribution to the class, and it could have been a disruption to the class. I'm sorry, not distribution. I'm sorry, it's on camera. I'm a bit nervous, but it could also be a threat to the streets, and I believe that it was the right thing to do at the time. We have suspended them up until January 1st of 1966.
Okay. All right. What else do you think should happen to the... That's just the dumbest question. Do you feel like you've made the right decision by suspending them?
Yes, I'd say so. I feel like their disruption could have been threatening to the entire school body as a whole, and I think it was for the best. It should have been done.
How do your fellow coworkers feel about this situation?
I do believe that they agree with me. I think that they should stand by my side, and I also believe that they wanted the same thing done.
All right. What do you think about how it violates the First Amendment?
Well, people have come up to me and have said this before, but I believe that it is a disruption to the entire body as one, and because of that, it is not a violation of the First Amendment right.
Thanks, Chris. Well, now we will come back to that story later as they fight for their First Amendment freedoms. Giancarlo, what do we have in store?
There was a tornado in Florida.
There can't be tornadoes in Florida, though. Those are called hurricanes.
Hurricanes. Okay.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah, that's all we got for you today. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Regular. Returning to the story, we have the following past few years about the First Amendment's freedoms in the DesMoines School District in Iowa. Hold on, I got a text message. My dad got you a dog. No, it's mine. I'll answer it later. As I was saying, the case is evolving into a large national suit. A suit not filed until after the Iowa Civil Liberties Union approached their Tinker family, and the ACLU agreed to help the family with a lawsuit. Thank you, Giselle. The parents, in return, filed suit in U.S. District Court, which upheld the decision of the Des Moines School Board. A tie vote in the U.S. Court of Appeals in the 8th Circuit meant that the U.S. District Court's decision continued to stand and forced the Tinkers and system, the Eckharts to appeal to the Supreme Court directly. You can't hear me very well. I'll speak louder. The case was argued before the court on. Oh, this is already crossed out on but today. The case was argued before the court today, November 12th, 1968. This just in. Somehow Chris Barton just got coverage decided in the U.S. Supreme Court. Oh my gosh. Now over to you, Chris.
Please be seated. We are about to hear the case of Tinker vs. DesMoines. It is November 12, 1968. The time is 12:33 p.m. Mr. Johnson, proceed.
Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the court, this case is similar in some respects to the decision and the case of the result and decision in the Epperson versus Arkansas, which the court decided just this morning. The case is here on certiorari to the United States Circuit Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit. One major distinction between the Epperson and this case is that this case involves the right of public school students, rather than public school faculty members, to exercise expressions of their opinions in a non-disruptive way in the school. The case began in the United States.
Well, this is not a religious establishment case here.
No, it is not, Your Honor. It is a First Amendment free speech case, in the sense of expression of views rather than a worship of establishment cases. Conduct of the students essentially was this: that Christmas time in 1965, they decided that they would wear small black armbands to express certain views, which they had in regard to the war in Vietnam. Specifically, the views were that they mourned the dead of both sides, both civilian and military, in the war. And they supported the proposal that have made by the United States Senator Robert Kennedy, that the truce, which had been proposed for the war over the Christmas period, be made in an open-ended, or indefinite truce. This was the purpose that the students gave for wearing the armbands during this period. The principals of the secondary schools, the high schools, and perhaps the junior high schools of the city of DesMoines, a public school system, met prior to the time in any of the armbands having been worn, and enacted a policy which was not written, but which was agreed upon among themselves, that no student should wear an armband in the Iowa public school system. For this purpose, that if a student came to the school wearing an armband, he would be asked to remove it. The 3 students, as you can see right here, who are petitioner, in this case, Christopher Eckhart, who was 16 and in the 10th grade at Roosevelt High School, John Tinker, who was 15 and in the 11th grade at another high school, and Mary Beth Tinker, who was 13 and in the 8th grade, determined that in spite of the policy that had been announced to the schools, that they would wear the armbands as a matter of conscience to express the views they have. Mr. Johnson, that's me. Well, I accept that, Your Honor. I believe that the method the students chose in this particular instance was specifically designed in such a way that it would not cause any kind of disruption. None of the teachers who testified in the hearing in the district court said anything about...
You mean they're just wearing a meaningless armband?
No, Your Honor. I believe that they were...
Carrying an ineffective message and they intended it to be ineffective?
No, they intended it to be effective, but at the same time...
Well, why didn't they take it off when they went into class?
Well, there would be no reason for taking it off when walking into class.
Because it was ineffective.
Why did they wear it again? Why did they wear the armband?
They wore the armband to
Convey a message?
convey a message. That's right.
They anticipated students to see and understand and think about it.
Well, our contention is that the policy, as it was adopted, that was a broad policy, we do not distinguish, not in any way was directed towards disruption or destruction, is a policy which will not stand the test of freedom of expression under the First Amendment. Students, in fact, did wear the armbands. The record quite clearly shows that it was not, in fact, disruptive in any way.
And so there could certainly be some whispering going on. Undertone in the classroom?
There isn't any doubt about that in our mind, Your Honor.
And even though it wasn't disruptive or bothered anybody else at all, we didn't make anybody mad or anything. This might have made somebody a little amused.
It might have impaired the ability of the school to carry out the purposes that it was there for.
Well, is there any evidence of that in the record?
Your Honor, there is none. Thank you for my time, Your Honor. respondents believe that there are two basic issues involved here. The first, the school administrators or school boards have to wait until violence, disorder, and disruption break out, and scholarly discipline of the school is disrupted, or may they acted when in good faith and the reasonable discretion and judgment. Disorder and disruption of scholarly atmosphere of the schoolroom will result unless they act firmly and properly. The second issue, it seems to me, is that this court must determine how far it wants to go under the constitutional amendments for free speech in reviewing every decision of every school district made in good faith and its reasonable discretion and judgment as necessary to maintain order and scholarly discipline atmosphere within the classroom. The third issue might be added are disturbances or threatened disturbances in the schools to be measured by identical standards with disturbances or threatened disturbances on the streets. Now, it's the position of the respondents that the decision of the school administration and of the school board made in good faith under the circumstances existing when that decision was made was the responsible exercise of discretion on the part of school authorities and did not deprive petitioners of their constitutional right of free speech. Now, this court has held that freedom of speech, including, of course, the right of demonstration, is not an absolute right to be exercised regardless of time or place.
How many will wear an armband?
Well, there were 5 suspended.
5?
Who are wearing armbands, Your Honor?
Well, there are any wearing armbands who are not suspended?
Yes, I think there were 2.
That makes 7.
They weren't accepted, and I'll refer to that a little later.
7 out of 18,000, and the school board was afraid that 7 students wearing an armband would disrupt 18,000.
Mr. Herrick, suppose they decide to wear black neckties. 4-in-hand necktie?
Oh, I would anticipate, Your Honor, that probably would have been any question about it.
Suppose they use the same build-up instead of saying we wear black armbands. It said, and in order to mourn the war in Vietnam, you wear mourning black ties.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah!
And we're on the same page, please support.
I, Justice Abe Fortas, will share the majority vote. Decision: 7 votes for Tinker, 2 votes against. Legal provision: Amendment 1, speech, press, and assembly. The wearing of armbands was closely akin to pure speech and protected by the First Amendment. School environments imply limitations on free expression, but here the principals lacked justification for imposing any such limits. The principals had failed to show that the forbidden conduct would substantially interfere with appropriate school discipline.